I still remember the exact moment my phone buzzed with that message. It was late afternoon, and I was sitting in my quiet living room, the sunlight fading softly through the curtains. My heart was pounding before I even unlocked the screen. Then I saw it. 3 words that cut deeper than any blade. "Don't come, Mom." My daughter. My own blood and flesh telling me not to come to her wedding. I stared at the message, unable to move, unable to breathe. The silence in the room stretched unbearably long as tears welled in my eyes, blurring the words on the screen. I wanted to scream, to beg, to somehow rewrite those words into something kinder. But the cold, unambiguous truth was there. I was not welcome. I thought back to the last time we spoke, months ago now. A conversation filled with tension, clipped words, and cold silences. I had tried to reach out since then, but my calls went unanswered. My texts ignored. And now, the final blow, being shut out from the most important day of her life. I sank back into the couch, memories crashing over me like waves in a storm. The first time I held her in my arms, her tiny fingers curling around mine. The nights spent comforting her after nightmares. The laughter, the shared secrets, the promises I made to always be there. How had it come to this? What I'd done so wrong that my daughter didn't want me at her wedding? The questions circled endlessly in my mind, fueling a fierce ache that wouldn't relent. But beneath the pain, a stubborn ember flickered, a desperate hope that maybe, somehow, this was not the end. I wiped my tears away and stared at the message again. If I couldn't be there in person, then maybe I could find a way to reach her heart, a gift she'd never forget, something that would make her stop and listen. I didn't know what that gift would be yet, but I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't the final chapter of our story. I often find myself drifting back to the days when things between us were simpler, when my daughter and I shared laughter instead of silence, hugs instead of cold shoulders. She was my little girl, bright-eyed, curious, full of life. We had dreams then, big ones. We talked about her wedding as if it was decades away, how I'd dance with her and maybe embarrass her a little. I can still see her smile, the way it lit up her room. Back then, I was convinced nothing could come between us. But life has a way of slipping through your fingers. I was so focused on providing, on keeping everything together, that I didn't notice the distance growing in the quiet moments, the unspoken words, the hurt behind her eyes. Maybe I was naive, or maybe I simply didn't want to see it. The years after her father left were hard on both of us. I was juggling 2 jobs, trying to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. She grew up fast, and with every passing year, the conversations between us became shorter. Sometimes I wondered if she blamed me for things I couldn't fix. I tried to be strong, but inside I was breaking. Despite it all, she graduated high school with honors, a proud moment that felt like a brief victory against the tide. I remember the joy in her voice when she called to tell me about college acceptance letters. It was the kind of happiness that kept me going through sleepless nights. I wanted to be there for every step of her journey, but something changed along the way. I couldn't pinpoint the moment our bond began to fray. And now, with her wedding just weeks away, I'm left wondering how we ended up here. 2 people separated by more than just distance, but by words unspoken and wounds unhealed. The thought of her walking down the aisle without me breaks something inside me that I don't know how to fix. Yet, despite the ache, I'm determined not to give up. If there's a chance to reach her, I will find it. I replayed the signs of our growing distance over and over in my mind. The missed calls I let go to voicemail. The texts I didn't reply to right away. The nights when I came home tired and distracted, too drained to ask how our day went. It wasn't that I didn't care. I cared fiercely, but life kept pulling me in different directions. She stopped inviting me to things. School events, dinners with her friends, even simple outings we used to share. At first, I thought it was just part of growing up, carving her own space in the world. But then the invitations stopped altogether. Instead, I began receiving third-party updates or social media posts that left me feeling like an outsider in my own daughter's life. One Christmas, I waited by the phone all day for her to call. When it didn't happen, I realized how much the silence was starting to hurt. The conversations that once flowed easily now felt strained and awkward. When we did talk, It was like we were strangers trying to find common ground. I tried to reach out, asking about her interests, listening more, giving space, but nothing seemed to bridge the growing gap. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I'd catch a flicker of sadness in her eyes, but it was quickly masked by a wall I couldn't break down. The wedding planning only highlighted the distance. She never invited me to meetings or dress fittings. Her fiancé's family seemed closer to her than I was. I felt invisible at times, a ghost haunting a celebration I was no longer a part of. It hurt deeply, but I told myself to be patient, to keep trying. I blamed myself, wondering if I'd made mistakes, too busy, too tired, too flawed to be the mother she needed. But I never stopped hoping for a chance to mend what was broken. Even if she didn't want me there physically, maybe there was a way to be present in her heart. When the wedding invitation finally arrived, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was the olive branch I'd been waiting for, the chance to be included, to show her I still cared, no matter what. The envelope was beautiful, embossed with elegant script and delicate designs. My name was there, but what wasn't included was the warmth I'd hoped for. No note, no personal message, just the details of the ceremony and the reception, with a clear message underneath it all. I was expected to come, but nothing more. No indication that she wanted me there, no hint of reconciliation, just the cold facts. That invitation felt like both an opening and a wall. I had the chance to be there physically, but the emotional distance between us loomed large. The wedding was no longer about celebration or family. It felt like a test I wasn't sure I could pass. I debated whether to accept, whether to try to force my way into a day that might shatter my heart further. Then came the message, "Don't come, Mom." Those words slammed down on me like a hammer. My daughter was telling me not to come, not because of logistics or timing, but because she didn't want me there. The invitation felt meaningless after that. It wasn't an invitation at all. It was a reminder that the relationship I cherished was broken, and perhaps beyond repair. My mind raced. What had I done so wrong to deserve this? Was it something I said, something I didn't do? The silence that followed the message was deafening. Yet in that silence, a new resolve began to take shape. I couldn't show up if I wasn't wanted, but I also couldn't disappear. If I couldn't stand beside her on that day, I would find another way to make sure she knew I loved her. A gift, something she couldn't ignore, a message louder than words. After receiving that message, I tried to reach out, text after text, call after call. I begged for a chance to talk, to explain, to hear her side, to share mine. But each attempt was met with silence or short, cold replies that pushed me further away. Sometimes she answered, but her voice was distant and strained, like I was a stranger barging into her life uninvited. Other times, my calls went straight to voicemail, and texts lingered unanswered for days. The pain of rejection settled in my chest like a stone. Friends and family whispered to me, some offering sympathy, others cautioning me to let go. But how do you let go of your own child? How do you stop loving someone who once needed you so deeply? I wondered if the wounds ran too deep, if she harbored resentments I didn't know about. Was there something I had missed? Had I hurt her in ways I couldn't repair? My heart ached with every unanswered message, but I refused to give up. At times, I thought about showing up at her door unannounced, demanding a conversation, but I knew that would only push her further away. So I waited, hoping she'd come around. That time would heal what words could not. Still, the silence was a heavy weight. I was losing her piece by piece, and I felt powerless to stop it. But beneath the hurt, a stubborn hope remained, that one day she'd see beyond the pain and let me back in. Eventually, the truth began to surface, not in direct words, but in hints and whispers. Through mutual friends, I learned about the disappointments she carried, the moments where she felt hurt and misunderstood. She remembered the times I missed important events, the promises I broke, the anger I didn't know how to contain. She remembered feeling second to my work, to my worries, to my fears. Those memories haunted her, building walls I hadn't realized were so high. It wasn't just about a wedding or a message. It was years of pain and disappointment, carefully packed away until they spilled over. She felt abandoned, judged, and unseen. The daughter who once clung to me now wanted to push me away. Hearing this was like a blow to the chest. I carried my own regrets and sorrows, but to know that she had been hurting silently for so long tore me apart. I wished I could turn back time, to be the mother she needed rather than the one she resented. But wishing wasn't enough. I had to face these truths head-on if there was any chance to mend the broken pieces. I promised myself to listen, to understand, to prove that I was still there, even if she didn't want me there in person. The road ahead would be long and uncertain, but I was ready to walk it. For her. For us. Every night, when the house falls silent, the weight of regret presses on me like a suffocating fog. I replay every argument, every missed moment, every harsh word that might have driven her away. I ask myself over and over, where did I fail her? What could I have done differently? The silence between us feels like my own punishment. I remember the times I was too tired to listen, the days I put work before her, the times I lost patience when she needed understanding. I thought I was doing my best, but maybe my best wasn't enough. Maybe I was too wrapped up in my own struggles to see hers. The truth is, I'm scared. Scared that I might have lost her forever. The thought that she might never forgive me, never want me in her life, cuts deeper than any wound. I try to hold on to hope, but the guilt claws at my heart relentlessly. I write letters I never send, pouring out apologies and love onto paper, hoping somehow the words will reach her. But when I think about delivering them, I hesitate, afraid they'll only remind her of pain. So I keep them locked away, alongside the memories of better times. The burden of self-blame is heavy, but it also fuels a fierce determination. I want to be better. For her. For myself. I want to find a way to heal the wounds between us, no matter how long it takes. I have to believe that love can still bridge this gap. Some nights I whisper into the dark, telling her how much I love her, how sorry I am, how much I wish I could turn back time. And sometimes in those quiet moments, I feel a flicker of peace, like maybe, just maybe, she can still hear me. As the wedding day draws nearer, my heart battles between two paths, redemption or revenge. Part of me aches to mend our broken relationship, to find a way back into her life with an open heart and humility. But another part, wounded and angry, wants to send a message that can't be ignored. I wrestle with the bitterness that threatens to consume me. I want her to feel the depth of the pain she caused, to understand what it means to push a mother away. But I also know that pain breeds more pain, and revenge could destroy whatever fragile hope remains. So I search for a way to walk the line, to speak truth without cruelty, to express love without weakness. I want a gesture that will reach her soul, that will make her pause and reflect, that might open a door to forgiveness. The idea of a gift begins to take shape. Not just any gift, but something deeply personal and symbolic. Something that tells the story of our shared past, acknowledges the hurt, and offers a chance to heal. A gift she can't simply discard. I spend hours thinking, researching, planning. What could carry such weight? A letter? An heirloom? A piece of art? Something that captures the love, regret, and hope intertwined in our story. Every idea feels both risky and necessary. I know there are no guarantees, that she might reject even this final attempt. But I can't stay silent anymore. I have to try. This gift will be my voice when words fail, my outstretched hand when mine is pushed away. It's my last hope to reach her before the wedding day closes the chapter forever. Choosing the right gift was harder than I ever imagined. I wanted it to be meaningful, something that spoke volumes without saying a word, something that held pieces of our past, but also pointed to a future, if she was willing to take it. I sifted through old photographs, keepsakes, and memories, searching for that perfect symbol. The locket she wore as a child? Too small, too fragile. The quilt I made when she was a baby? Too heavy with nostalgia. I needed something timeless, personal, and unforgettable. Then, I remembered a journal, a book she had started years ago, but never finished. It was filled with dreams, poems, sketches, and hopes she once dared to share with me. It captured the essence of who she was before the distance grew. I decided to find that journal, restore it, and add to it. I wrote my own entries, apologies, memories, and hopes for reconciliation. I included letters I never sent and reflections on our journey. I carefully bound it anew, creating a bridge between her past and what might still be. Alongside the journal, I chose a delicate silver bracelet engraved with a phrase we once said to each other: "Always my daughter, forever my heart." It was subtle, elegant, and carried the weight of unspoken love. This gift wasn't just a present, it was a message, a plea, a testament. It held my love, my regrets, and my unwavering hope that she might find it in her heart to forgive me. Packing it carefully, I felt a mixture of fear and hope. Would she accept it? Would it make a difference? I didn't know, but I knew I had to try. Sending the gift wasn't as simple as mailing a package. I needed it to arrive at the right moment, to reach her hands when the wedding's excitement was highest, but before the day slipped away without a word from me. I researched delivery options, tracking systems, even discreet courier services. I wanted it to feel special, intentional, not some last-minute afterthought. Timing was everything. I also reached out to a few trusted mutual friends, careful not to reveal too much, but seeking advice on the best way to ensure she received the gift without it being intercepted or ignored. Their support was cautious but encouraging. I rehearsed what I might say if she called, or if she reached out after receiving it. I prepared my heart for whatever response or silence might come. Each day, as the wedding neared, the knot in my stomach tightened. I balanced hope and fear, excitement and dread. Was this the moment our story could turn? Or was I sending a goodbye in disguise? With the gift packed, the address double-checked, and the delivery date set, I breathed deeply. There was no turning back now. The morning of the wedding dawned cold and gray, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. I sat alone, watching the clock tick toward the ceremony, my mind a whirlwind of memories, hopes, and fears. I imagined her, radiant in white, surrounded by family and friends, smiling as she walked down the aisle. Yet I wasn't there. I was an outsider, a ghost fading into the background of her life. The house was eerily quiet, the absence of her laughter and presence a sharp ache. I held the gift close, wishing I could hand it to her myself, but knowing that might only push her further away. The hours crawled by. I found myself staring at my phone, waiting for a message, a call, any sign that she thought of me at all. But the silence was deafening. Finally, the courier confirmed the gift was delivered. Somewhere, in her hands, was the symbol of everything I wished I could say. My heart fluttered, torn between hope and fear. I prayed she would understand, that she would see beyond the gift and hear the love behind it. And even if she didn't, I needed to let go of the pain, to find peace in knowing I had tried. I packaged the journal and bracelet with the utmost care, wrapping them in delicate tissue paper and a handwritten note. The letter was raw and honest, a confession of my regrets, an acknowledgement of her pain, and a plea for forgiveness. I sealed the envelope, my hands trembling as I addressed it to her. I wrote, "For when you're ready to hear me," hoping those words would reach her heart. At the post office, I watched as the clerk scanned the package, my chest tightening with each beep. This simple act felt monumental, a release of years of sorrow and hope wrapped into one. Walking away, I felt a strange mix of relief and vulnerability. I had no idea how she would react. Would she be angry, indifferent, or touched? Would this gift build a bridge or burn one? All I knew was that I had done everything I could. Now, I had to wait. Word spread quickly after the wedding. Even though I wasn't there, my presence, or rather my absence, was felt. Some relatives expressed sympathy, others disappointment, and a few whispered doubts about whether I was to blame for the growing rift. But it wasn't their opinions I feared, it was my daughter's. When news reached me that the gift had arrived, I felt a cautious hope. Friends told me how the package was the talk of the day, stirring whispers among guests. Some said it was a bold move, a last attempt to reach across the divide. Others viewed it as a desperate act, unlikely to change anything. At family gatherings afterward, conversations shifted. Some relatives gently hinted at the need for healing, while others avoided the topic entirely, uncomfortable with the tension. I was grateful for the support of a few who understood the complexity of our situation, those who had seen the gradual unraveling and still held faith in reconciliation. Yet, through it all, the silence from my daughter remained. No calls, no messages, just a void where connection used to be. The gift was hers now, but whether it would soften her heart or harden her resolve was a mystery that kept me awake at night. I grappled with feelings of loneliness and hope. Loneliness for the daughter I once knew, hope that maybe this gesture had sparked a seed of understanding. I knew this wasn't just about a wedding or a gift. It was about years of pain, regret, and love tangled together. Despite the uncertainty, I clung to the belief that family ties run deep, even when stretched thin. The hope that time, patience, and openness might one day bring us back to each other gave me strength to carry on. I realized healing would take more than gifts or words. It required willingness on both sides. And for now, I could only wait and prepare for whatever came next, ready to embrace reconciliation or accept the painful truth. I waited, breath held tight, for a sign from her, any sign. When a message finally came, my heart soared and shattered all at once. Her words were sharp, tinged with anger and disbelief. She wasn't ready to forgive, wasn't ready to accept my gift or me. She called it a reminder of wounds she wanted to forget, a symbol of a past she wished to bury. She accused me of trying to rewrite history, of glossing over the pain and damage that led to her telling me not to come. Her voice was raw, filled with hurt I had long feared but never heard spoken aloud. Her reaction cut deep, but I understood. Forgiveness isn't a switch flipped with a gift or a gesture. It's a slow, painful process, one that requires time, trust, and genuine change. I didn't expect instant healing. I just hoped to open a door. She said the gift made her feel conflicted, torn between resentment and longing. She saw the love I tried to convey, but felt overwhelmed by the memories it stirred. It was as if the gift forced her to confront emotions she wasn't prepared to face. Though her words stung, they were a breakthrough, a crack in the wall of silence. For the first time, she acknowledged my efforts and the complexity of our fractured relationship. It wasn't a reunion, but it was a conversation. I told her I wasn't perfect, that I understood her pain, and that I was willing to listen and learn. I promised no pressure, no expectations, only love and patience. The path to reconciliation would be slow, but I was committed to every step. Her response was tentative but sincere, a small glimmer of hope. She agreed to keep the lines open, if only for now. It wasn't the ending I dreamed of, but it was the beginning of something real. The gift was more than just a journal and bracelet. It was a story woven with intention. Each page held layers of meaning, memories captured in words and images, the journey of a mother desperate to connect with her daughter. Inside the journal, she found letters I'd written but never sent, confessions of mistakes, expressions of love, and hopes for healing. The entries traced our shared history, acknowledging both joys and sorrows. I had left space for her to write, to add her voice, to begin a dialogue that had long been silenced. The bracelet, delicate and engraved, carried the silent promise of enduring love, a physical reminder that no matter the distance, our bond remained unbroken. I had hoped that these symbols would speak where words had failed. The hidden message wasn't just in the objects, but in the thoughtfulness behind them, the acknowledgement of hurt, the willingness to take responsibility, and the invitation to rebuild together. It was an olive branch extended with humility. She later confided that reading the journal was like walking through a gallery of memories, some painful, some beautiful. The honesty surprised her. The vulnerability moved her. It forced her to reconsider the narrative she'd held onto for so long. The gift challenged her to see beyond anger, to recognize the complexity of love and loss. It wasn't a solution, but it was a catalyst, a spark to ignite understanding where there had been only silence. That hidden message lay the foundation for new conversations, a shared space where healing could begin. It was imperfect, but it was real. And for the first time in years, I felt we might be on the same path. As the days turned to weeks, I lived in a strange limbo, close enough to feel the tremors of change, but distant enough to remain patient. I watched quietly from afar, giving her space to process, to heal, to decide how she wanted to move forward. Each day was filled with reflection. I revisited old memories, some painful, some comforting. I thought about the daughter I raised and the woman she had become, strong, independent, and complicated. I realized that forgiveness would never be simple or swift. Sometimes loneliness wrapped around me like a cold blanket, but other times hope flared bright, a gentle reminder that love, even fractured, endures. I held on to the belief that time was a healer, that wounds could mend with patience and honesty. I refrained from pushing, from asking for answers or demands. Instead, I focused on becoming a better version of myself, more understanding, more open, more present. I knew that rebuilding trust meant showing up in ways that mattered, even if unseen. There were moments when I imagined her reaching out, a tentative message or call. Those moments lifted me, only to be followed by the silence that tested my resolve. Yet I never gave up. My love for her was unwavering, a constant through uncertainty. This quiet reflection became a journey of self-discovery, a chance to confront my own faults and fears. It taught me humility and patience, the value of listening without judgment, and the power of unconditional love. Though separated by distance and hurt, I remained connected to her by hope. And in that hope, I found strength to wait for the day when she might open the door again. Slowly but surely, the gift began to weave its influence through our fractured family. Conversations that had been taboo started to surface. Relatives who once avoided the tension now spoke cautiously about the possibility of healing. The journal and bracelet became symbols, tangible proof that despite the pain, love still lingered beneath the surface. Friends shared stories of their own broken relationships and the power of reaching out with vulnerability. Though my daughter hadn't yet fully embraced the gesture, it softened the air between us. People saw the effort, the thoughtfulness, and began to hope for reconciliation. The gift had cracked the wall that silence had built. In family gatherings, the mood shifted. Instead of cold avoidance, there was tentative warmth. Eyes met with unspoken understanding. The narrative was no longer about blame, but about moving forward. I felt a cautious optimism grow. This wasn't just about one gift. It was about planting seeds of compassion and patience. The journey ahead would still be challenging, but the path was clearing. For the first time in a long while, I believed that our story could still have a future. The gift had sparked something powerful, a chance to rewrite our ending. Weeks after the wedding, I learned that my daughter had found a quiet moment alone with the gift. Away from the noise, the expectations, and the judgments, she sat with the journal and bracelet, letting the weight of them settle in her hands and heart. She told a friend that the experience was bittersweet. Painful memories resurfaced, but so did feelings of love and connection she hadn't dared to face. The gift made her reflect on the complexity of our relationship, the good and the bad intertwined. In that private space, she began to understand the depth of my regret and hope. The vulnerability I had shown wasn't weakness, but courage. It challenged her own walls, inviting her to soften. Though she wasn't ready to forgive completely, she admitted the gift had opened a door she hadn't known was there. It gave her permission to feel conflicted, to grieve, and maybe, eventually, to heal. That private moment marked a turning point. It was a seed planted in fertile ground, waiting for time and care to grow. For me, knowing she had this moment brought a peace I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't the end, but it was a beginning, a fragile but hopeful step toward reconnection. Along with the journal and bracelet, I included a letter. Not just any letter, but the most honest and vulnerable words I could put to paper. I wanted her to understand everything I felt but struggled to say aloud. I poured my heart into that letter, confessing my regrets, my mistakes, and the depth of my love. I acknowledged the pain I had caused, intentionally or not, and expressed my hope for healing, even if it took a lifetime. There was no blame, no defensiveness, only raw truth. I wrote about the nights I lay awake, haunted by the silence between us, about the moments I missed and the ones I hoped to create someday. I told her how proud I was of the woman she had become, despite our struggles, and how much I wished I could walk beside her on that wedding day. The letter was my soul laid bare, a plea for understanding and forgiveness. I hoped that when she read it, she would see not just a mother's pain, but a mother's unwavering love. Weeks later, I heard from a mutual friend that she had read the letter multiple times. She said it had touched something deep inside her, stirring feelings she had buried beneath years of hurt and anger. It wasn't an immediate reconciliation, but it cracked open a door. She told her friend the letter made her realize how much I had been carrying the weight of our estrangement, how my love had persisted through the silence. It made her question the bitterness she'd held onto and consider what might still be possible. Though she wasn't ready to reply directly, the letter became a silent conversation between us, one that spoke louder than any words exchanged in anger or frustration. It was a lifeline, fragile but real. For me, knowing that my letter had reached her heart, even in a small way, was a turning point. It gave me the courage to keep hoping, to keep trying, and to believe that one day we might find our way back to each other. That letter was more than paper and ink. It was a bridge built from love and honesty, stretching across the distance that had grown between us. After weeks of silence following the delivery of the gift and letter, my phone finally lit up with a message from her. My heart nearly stopped. The words were tentative, uncertain, an olive branch extended across the vast divide. She wrote that she needed time, but wanted to talk, to try and understand where I was coming from. That simple message was a beacon in the darkness, a fragile thread reconnecting two hearts that had drifted apart. Our first conversations were slow and careful. We skirted around the painful parts, focusing instead on small details of daily life and memories for better times. It was awkward, filled with pauses and unspoken fears, but it was honest. I listened more than I spoke, learning about her feelings, the disappointments, the resentments, the moments when she felt unseen and unheard. I shared my own regrets and hopes, acknowledging that we both carried wounds that needed tending. Breaking the silence was like crossing a minefield. One wrong word could close the door forever. But step by step, we built trust again. We found common ground in the love that still lingered beneath the hurt. There were tears, raised voices, and moments when it seemed we might fall apart again. Yet each time, we chose to stay, to listen, and to try. It wasn't easy, but it was real. I realized that this was no quick fix. Healing would take time, patience, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. But for the first time in years, I felt hopeful. This breaking of silence was more than words on a screen or calls between two people. It was the beginning of mending a fractured bond. It was the first step toward forgiveness, understanding, and maybe, just maybe, reconciliation. Though the road ahead was uncertain, I was ready to walk it, with open heart and steady hope, knowing that love, even when battered, can still find its way home. Our conversations became a delicate dance between healing and hurting. With every word exchanged, old wounds were reopened, and new ones sometimes formed. Yet, within the pain lay the possibility of understanding, a painful but necessary step toward rebuilding what had been broken. She shared memories of feeling invisible, unheard, and overshadowed. I listened with a heavy heart, realizing how my own struggles had blinded me to her pain. I admitted my failures, the moments I chose work over presence, silence over conversation. There were times when her anger surged, accusations that cut deep, reminders of mistakes I wished I could erase. I felt the sting, but I held onto my resolve, knowing that to react with defensiveness would only widen the gap. In turn, I shared my own loneliness, the nights spent wrestling with guilt, the longing to be the mother she needed but felt I never was. Vulnerability flowed between us, raw and unfiltered, creating a fragile space where truth could take root. Some conversations ended in tears, others in silence, but each brought us closer. We began to understand not just what had been lost, but what could still be saved. Healing wasn't linear. There were setbacks, moments of doubt, frustration, and fear. But the act of speaking openly, of listening without judgment, became a balm to our wounded relationship. I learned that love doesn't erase pain, but can coexist with it. That forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. And that true connection requires honesty, patience, and courage. These conversations, though difficult, were gifts, opportunities to rebuild trust brick by brick. They reminded me that beneath the hurt, the bond between mother and daughter remained strong enough to heal. With every honest exchange, I saw glimpses of the daughter I once knew and hoped to know again. And in those moments, I felt a quiet hope blossoming, a hope that someday we might fully find each other again. One conversation stands out as the turning point. The moment when years of pain and silence finally began to soften and the possibility of true reconciliation flickered alive. It was a quiet evening, one of those rare times when we both put down our defenses. She spoke not with anger, but with a vulnerability I hadn't seen before. She shared fears, doubts, and regrets I didn't know she carried. I listened, truly listened, without interrupting or defending. For the first time, she admitted she missed me, the mother she wished I had been and still hoped I could be, the daughter who longed for connection but didn't know how to ask for it. Hearing those words cracked something open inside me. I responded with my own admission, that I'd been scared of rejection, scared of losing her forever. I told her how much I regretted the distance that grew between us and how deeply I wanted to repair the damage. We talked late into the night, tears flowing freely. The barriers that had seemed insurmountable began to crumble, replaced by raw honesty and mutual understanding. It wasn't a magical fix, but it was a start, the first real step toward healing. That turning point didn't erase the past or guarantee an easy road ahead. We both knew there would be setbacks and challenges, but it gave us a new foundation, a fragile but real hope rooted in empathy and love. In the days that followed, the tone of our conversations changed. We laughed together, reminisced about happier times, and shared hopes for the future. The gift I had sent became more than an object. It became a symbol of this new beginning. For the first time in a long time, I felt we were moving beyond blame and resentment towards something deeper and more healing. That turning point was not just about forgiveness. It was about rediscovering each other. Though the path ahead remained uncertain, I held on to this moment, this fragile breakthrough, as a beacon lighting the way. And in my heart, I knew that no matter what happened next, love had found a way back in. The days following our turning point were a mix of relief and adjustment. Reconnecting after so much pain meant facing the realities of what had been lost and what could still be rebuilt. The air between us was lighter, but the wounds were still tender. Family gatherings felt different. Instead of strained silences or awkward avoidance, there was cautious warmth. Others noticed the subtle shift, the tentative steps toward healing. Some relatives expressed surprise, others offered quiet encouragement. The gift, the conversations, the change in us, it rippled outward. Yet, not everything was easy. Old habits and fears lingered, causing moments of doubt and hesitation. Sometimes I worried that the progress we made might unravel under pressure. But each time we chose to keep going, to talk, to listen, to forgive a little more. We began to create new memories, small but significant. Shared meals, walks, and phone calls replaced avoidance and silence. I found joy in these simple moments, knowing they were the foundation of something lasting. The wedding day, though distant now, no longer felt like a final rejection, but a painful chapter that led us here. It reminded me that love can be messy and complicated, but also resilient. In the quiet aftermath, I understood that healing is not a destination, but a journey. It requires patience, courage, and grace from both sides. We were learning to give and receive those gifts. I also realized the importance of accepting where we are, even if it's not where we want to be. Sometimes love means holding space for pain and hope to coexist. As the seasons changed, so did we. Our relationship was no longer defined by absence or anger, but by the willingness to try again, to rebuild trust one day at a time. Though challenges remained, I felt a deep gratitude for the chance to be part of my daughter's life once more. Imperfect, fragile, but real. In the end, the aftermath wasn't an ending, but a beginning, a new chapter where love could grow stronger, grounded in truth and forgiveness. Standing at this crossroads, I find myself wondering what the future holds for us. After all the pain, the silence, the fragile steps toward healing, where do we go from here? Is this truly a new beginning, or the final goodbye dressed in hopeful words? I've learned that relationships, especially those forged by blood and years, are rarely simple or neat. Our bond is tangled with joy and hurt, love and regret. But it's still there, waiting to be nurtured or released. My daughter and I have made progress, broken barriers, shared truths, and opened doors that once seemed sealed shut. We laugh again, and sometimes we cry. We stumble, but we try. And in that trying, there is life. I don't know if we'll ever fully erase the past, or if the wounds will fade completely. But I do know this. I will keep showing up with patience and love, ready to listen and learn. I will respect her space and honor her choices, whatever they may be. This story isn't about grand gestures or perfect endings. It's about the messy, imperfect reality of family, the fractures and the healing, the distance and the closeness. It's about hope rooted in honesty and the courage to keep trying, even when it's hard. Whether this chapter leads to reconciliation or quiet acceptance, I carry no bitterness. Instead, I carry gratitude for the moments we shared, for the lessons learned, and for the chance to love despite it all. The gift I sent was never just about a wedding or a moment. It was about connection, about reminding her and myself that love endures beyond pain and silence. As I look ahead, I hold on to that truth, that even when we are apart, love remains. And sometimes, love is enough. This is my story of loss, hope, and the journey to find my daughter again. Whether our paths converge or part, I know I have done all I could. And that, in itself, is peace.